Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Go ahead and fire away with your questions. You can unmute yourself or type in.
And go ahead, Laura.
Hey Laura.
Hi, Greg. I was looking at, I've already signed up for the classes for the study group weekend and the Revitalize and Thrive in the New Year. And one of those may be the answer to this question. I am looking for more information on setting up my spiritual practice in a more organized. I'm too loosey goosey probably.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
And and I'd like some input about prayer and just different aspects. And I don't know if either of those two weekends would be the appropriate time to get some of that information, or a private session, or what's the best way to deal with that.
So you're just wanting like how to like structure like a schedule or a practice and like how to execute that.
I need to do better than what I'm doing. Yes.
Okay. Um, so I would say this one coming up on Sunday where anything goes, that could fall into that pretty easy. As far as the other two, what are we doing? Uncle Bob and
Revitalize and Thrive in the New Year.
and right before the new year. Yeah, I mean we could fit it in with something like that as well. We are going to be offering something a little bit more structured with Astara. We do like the streaming services, but we're going to be doing an interactive Three Brains 2 times a month, every month. We're going to like kind of set it out, and it's not going to be a teaching module. It's going to be that I'm going to sit down and do a practice with you guys every other week, and then you guys have, I don't want to call it homework, but if somebody wants to choose, like there'd be like practices to do in between. And so we'll be starting that in January.
And I have every intention of doing the streaming things that Astara offers.
Mhm.
Is this, but I haven't done it. Is any of this in any of those streaming?
Yeah, so the way that it's going to be structured is we're going to be doing a practice, and those modules that we put out with Astara are like kind of practice sessions, so that when we do the live practice session, you kind of have a bit of a background. So it's almost like interactive with those modules. It's a little bit different than anything that I've ever seen. So the modules will be kind of the homework, and then the session every other week, which is where we're kind of shifting intellect to intuition, which is basically increasing the potential of experiencing the soul and that aspect. Doesn't matter what tradition you're from, it would enhance whatever tradition you're practicing, and the ones that are doing the oils, it would enhance the practice with the oils as well. And so the modules are like kind of the homework, and then the sessions that we do every other week are going to be like a live, like interactive thing, that it's not something that's going to be recorded, because it's just going to be a live spontaneous thing from session to session. Like it's kind of like a little in between a meditation / healing session, and it's not just like a template of like, okay, we're going to sit down and do the meditation. We're going to sit down and do this process that's not always going to be the same. That's the thing with the intuitive mind. It's hard to cultivate intuition with repetition, and so there has to be a little bit of a spontaneous component to it. And so over the last couple of months, I really been thinking out like, how do we make that work? How do we make that, put that in play, like to be spontaneous but to be structured at the same time? It's like, how do you run to stand still? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's an interesting, idea, but we're going to start approaching it and see where it goes, starting about the middle of January. And the process, like the every other week thing, is going to be free. And then the modules, we try to do them like at a very inexpensive inexpensive price, and you can participate even if you don't have the modules. So
Got it.
yeah.
So basically, you'll cover
Yeah,
a good bit of
we'll be
this.
setting up and like if there's things that we need to augment where maybe we need to do a little bit deeper on some particular part of the practice, we'll throw in a little study group from time to time with that. But between the modules that we've released and some of the lectures that I've given with Astara, it's pretty much laid out the baseline for what we're going to be doing.
Okay, so don't
Yeah.
even bother with that until January.
Yeah, I would say just kind of do what you're doing until January. I mean, I'm glad to help you set something up then. We definitely can help you set up like a little something with the classes that you've had or the oils that you have, and set up like a little routine or practice. I've been making notes as we go along of like little things that are like little juicy tidbits out of different classes that could really be like a practice unto itself, and then like a little series of them. And so I can make that available to you guys too, to where it could be something that would be a daily practice or something like that. But Samantha really pushed for there to be that 30 days of the plant empowerment, and we were thinking about doing a version of that where it wasn't about the plant empowerment, but just like a practice, like, hey, we're going to do a daily practice. Remember when we did the Sandal Fun technique and we kind of did the thing where, okay, we're going to work this oil for the week and we're going to burn this incense, just to pull something out of a past class and say, okay, we're going to work this week. Like, and it could be a thing in the morning or a thing in the evening, and just have it be a thing for a week and then move on. And so we are going to do something like that. We were kicking around the idea of starting it at Christmas, but it might not start until the very first of the year.
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
so hopefully that kind of establishes what you're shooting for, what you're looking for. And since we're on this subject, one of the other things that we were going to do as well is for people who are wanting to do an even a little bit more serious practice, is to pull out like the things with the oils, and then doing things with mantras, and like some of the tools, maybe like a Dorje or a Purba, and have like again, probably twice a month, where we do a little like free study group in the evening where we go through and we do some little version of that. So, between Astara and Plant Prana, we're trying to give like more practical application of the things that we've presented in a way that's a little bit structured and like guided. So that's definitely coming in the new year.
That's great.
Yeah.
I've been taking these classes for years, and I've got so much information, but I need to put it together better for a practice. And it's life altering. I just love it, but I don't feel like I'm doing as good a job as
I think this might hit what you're looking for. Like, the thing would be that we'll say like, hey, this week we're gonna pull this out of this particular class, and even if you haven't had the class, this is the oil, and you'll be guided through a practice. And so yeah, we'll try to put it out there in such a way that it's like kind of easy and you're able to get it. And it's that thing too, where even with the oils, you know, our classes are a little bit different than like you study something and then you need to apply it. We're kind of applying it and going, okay, this is what we did. And so our weekends are part class, part therapy session, part meditation practice. And so even the idea of doing the classes, it's like this ongoing progressive practice that you're doing as well. And
Right.
so even participating the way that you're participating, you're already kind of doing the practice. It's a little bit different than the way we do things in the West, but it's almost like doing a little like ceremony of sorts every weekend where we're working the same kind of the same processes, we're working different aspects and working it to different depths and everything. And so I think the practice that I'm proposing is to go back through and pull upon the classes that we've done and either do them again or do them like a little differently. Like there's still like a lot of depth within each class that we could do to a much greater degree. Like, you know, a good example is all those chakra classes that we did. Um, you know, I could take one of those chakra classes and we could be working that for months and, you know, just different ways of doing it. And so we're gonna bring that around, you know, and make it so that you don't really have to be the one that pulls it all together. You can just like kind of jump on and participate and just pull one of your old kits out or something and be able to do the class or do the little session.
Great. Thank you very much.
Good. But the thing about prayer as well, if you want to, you know, if there's something I can answer now, or if you want to do it in one of the other classes or something like that, you know, however you want to do that.
Well, I mean, is Sunday the best time or what? Or is now or
Like how in depth do you want to go? Like I'm fine doing it now, but
well, you know, how in depth? I love it when you go down a rabbit hole. I learn and
me too. Me too.
that's my personal favorite, but you know,
We'll start a rabbit hole now and then
Yeah.
we'll expand
Like,
on it Sunday.
Is there something in particular you want to talk about with prayer, or you just want to cover the topic a bit, or?
I want to cover the topic a bit. You know, I grew up in a Protestant church, and you know, I just I don't feel like I do things as well as I would like to with prayer. But I talk all that. I mean, I just kind of talk through things.
Yeah, so there's different levels and there's different ways of prayer. And if you think about like prayer, you know, at first it's just, you could say, like trying to connect to the divine. Really, it's even just starting to reach for something outside of yourself. And I think that's a really important like step, like to be able to reach out of like your internal thoughts and your internal ways of thinking and reach for something that is like kind of almost out of your control or out of your realm of understanding or predictability or however you want to say it. And so I think that that's a very important step. But when we think of like connecting to, say, Jesus or Buddha or, you know, what one of these great beings, you know, you can see it mostly in the, like in the Buddhist tradition. Like if you see a picture of the Buddha, for example, or Kuan Yin, they're on this double lotus. Like they're standing on a double lotus, and then they're, you know, doing whatever posture or whatever they're doing. And that double lotus actually is the symbol for the planet, the earth. And so what that's symbolizing is, you know, when we look at one of the spiritual elders, like, you know, so in the Revelations, it says something to the effect of, seated next to the throne of God as 24 spiritual elders. And basically they all kind of have like a task of sorts. And you could say those spiritual elders are planetary beings. And so when we're praying to Christ, for example, we're not having to reach outside of ourselves. We're because their energy body, like they are the sun, you know, their energy body encompasses the earth. Like it's that big. And so when we're doing our prayer, really what we're doing is we're increasing the conductivity to an energy that we're always swimming in. You know, we're always in it. We're always swimming in it. We're always right there with it. But you know, we get in our heads, or life gets in our head, or you know, something gets there and we feel like a bit of a disconnect. And so at first just the act of prayer is to reach outside of ourselves, and then to start directing the energy first with the words, but then later it becomes more about imagery than it does about the words. So this whole idea of shifting from intellect to intuition is really switching from the logical mind to the intuitive mind. And the intuitive mind is the part of the mind that is going to experience the higher soul and is going to experience that divinity, you know, that energy that we're swimming in. And so when we start tapping into intuition, or we start tapping into imagery or metaphorical thinking, even our dream time, we're really closer to Jesus then than we are like in our waking mind, you know, because we're tapping more into that intuitive part of the mind. And so all these practices that we do to shift into intuition, and like the 3 brain practice, and the parts where, you know, we go to that place where our mind is quiet and we're not that sure of you know, how we see a particular situation, all of that is allowing something in. And it's very different than the supposed tos or have to do's and like a religious practice. You know, the religious practice is good for a while because it is repetitive. It does kind of stabilize the logical mind and gives it some busy activity. You know what I mean? Like it keeps it. I mean, even the idea of mantra, sometimes early stages of mantra is to replace the repetitive thinking of the mind with a repetitive thought that's, you know, a mantra, so that eventually it can step away from that kind of thinking. And so at first it's just about kind of calming down the logical mind, quieting down the logical mind, and then starting to have more of those intuitive experiences. And in that is where you're going to start experiencing greater communion with the divine. And, you know, like I think for a while we spend time just to quiet down the mind and calm down the monkey mind and the drives of the everyday world. And then when that starts to calm down, there almost reaches a point like, okay, I've kind of done that, now what? And the next phase is to start to have communication with the divine. And that's going to go beyond like verbal, like that's very deep in the intuitive mind. And so at first we're developing the intuitive mind, and then once we develop that intuitive quality, then to start putting our awareness on some divine being or some divine teaching, or even harder, just like the nothingness. And I would say it's easier to have a form. So at first, like even if you look at it from the Christian point of view, you're focusing on Christ, you're focusing on Christ, you're focusing on Christ and the image of Christ, and the teachings. And then at some point it's like you almost feel like the imagery is holding you back, because there's so much more to Christ than just the images. And that's where the communication starts to come in. And you come back to the images at some point, but you come back on it like standing on a different foot, you could say. And the practices that we do to get into that more intuitive state is helping with the next step, the next phase. And regardless of what tradition or what deity that it is, the mechanics are kind of the same. In the West, it's mostly Christ. People sometimes will do slightly different things, but most of the time it's Christ. And so the idea would be then to like almost like meditate on Christ and start having a kind of communication with Christ, which is like a deeper form of prayer. But it would be done more through imagery than it would be through like our normal everyday thinking. And so the normal everyday thinking is fine, and like the structured prayers and things like that are all good. But when you start doing the stuff with the oils and meditation, you're really stepping into that next phase. And so then it depends on kind of where you want to go with it. I would say
I don't even have enough information to know where to go from there. So that's
if you
why.
grew up like you said, Protestant, I would say, doing the practice that we're doing, I would work the energy of Christ and go deeper and deeper and deeper with that. And if something else is drawn into what you're doing, but the practices that we're going to be doing, that's what I plan on doing with, it's not for everybody, but for the ones who want to take something a bit deeper, we're going to provide that. Like one of the things that for me, like when we're even doing the classes, I always kind of go like, well, how deep should we go? Like how deep should we go with the classes, in the class, whatever. And not everybody wants to go where I would like to go. And so, I want to meet the needs of everybody, but at the same time, there's going to be a handful of people that want to go deeper. And so we're going to start doing little things that address that. And so I would guide you in that. And so that's the whole thing with the intuition, is once you kind of step away from the logical mind, it's a very different experience, because it's not based on like written words, and it's based on these inner experiences. And like it's a communion, like a communication. There's an interaction that's not how you would do it from the logical mind. Like the logical mind can't touch it, like it just can't. And so I was just talking this out, actually, ironically, about a week ago with Samantha. I was like, it's a difficult thing because it's almost like you're trying to convince the logical mind to do something that really it's not even able to do. And so at some point you just get exhausted and you go, I gotta step away from this. And then you start stepping into this other realm or this other circle, and you don't have the logical mind to guide you like that. And so you know, there's guidance there, but it's not the kind of validation that you would get with like facts, but it's there. And the more that you get to experience it, the more that you can feel what's right and what's not right. But the best way to do that is, like, you know how sometimes in the classes I'll go, let's not talk about it, let's just do it and then we'll talk about it later. Like that's kind of prepping the way to do what we're talking about. And so we're going to take it to a deeper level that way. And you could say that's a deeper form of prayer. You could say that's a deeper form of meditation. That's a deeper form of communion. That's yeah.
Well, that's great. This is exactly what the kind of stuff I do want to go deeper with. And it's interesting. I you've given several examples over the years, and one of them that just popped in my head, that you were describing an experience you had where it was during the process where you were going above your crown,
Mhm.
and I think your teacher asked you how far above your crown or something you thought you were, and then he said, "Oh no." And
Oh
that's
yeah.
but when you said that, it was
Yeah.
like, sometimes
Yeah.
I have the feeling like I'm an imposter, that I'm
Right.
doing this,
Right.
that
Yeah.
I'm doing this stuff and I have no
Right.
earthly idea. I'm just flowing with it. But then I go, oh my gosh, I may not be, doing this right at all, you know. But
You know, I like the going into like the intuitive mind and then opening up the communication and like, you know, starting the communing. It's you know, a little bit like breaking out of that egg. You know, if like from the inside out, like I think on the weekend we were talking about, like there's almost like these little flashes of light that start to show cracks in like an egg. You're really breaking out of like personality or the ego, um, the accumulated thoughts of a lifetime. And in different traditions, there's different practices that help to accelerate that. And it's what in Christian tradition they would say, like being a vessel, you know, being a vessel of light or being a vessel of Christ. Um, in the Buddhist tradition, they would talk about it like um, being empty or the emptiness. And it's you know, so much we look like kind of inward, but there's also like a lot of stuff from our past that we're kind of swimming in, and that connecting to the divine is really starting to push that personalized debris out of the way so that we connect to the divine. And um you know, you become this like luminous ball of light. And you know, there's phases and stages of it, but you know, it's the alchemical process. And I'd say that alchemical process is a thread that runs through all traditions. It doesn't matter what the tradition is, it's just they use different words and different techniques to get there. But once you kind of start doing the mechanics, it doesn't matter what the tradition is or the deity is. You know, they all have their different qualities that you might be attracted to. But yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we're actively setting up the structure both on the Astara side and the Plant Prana side. In fact, we even had like a little meeting not too long ago with trying to establish, like, for, I don't know what we're going to call it, like an advanced group or Did we come up with a name? I don't think we came up with a name.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll call it something, but it's just going to be a little thing that we start doing, just like how we do, this practice, but it's going to be a bit more advanced, and I'm not really going to be teaching it. We're just going to jump in and just get busy.
Great.
Yeah.
You know, this weekend's class was fabulous, but I have to tell you, I stopped on Sunday for lunch and fell asleep, and I slept all afternoon.
Perfect.
I wasn't part of the entire afternoon because I just
Yeah.
slept.
Yeah, perfect. But see, that's the thing, is that when that divine energy comes in, like that's kind of what happens, is you get really mellow, you get really chill. It's time for a good nap. Like you kind of step out of the everyday world a little bit, and be it that you're awake or even a little bit sleeping, you're processing something much deeper than you could with your logical mind. And so that you fell asleep, they're still part of the practice, you know.
Well, I'm going to go back and finish. Obviously, it was a very important class.
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing,
Yeah.
and I've told a couple of people that they need to pick it up. But thank you. It was great.
You're so
I'll look forward to finishing it sometime soon.
yeah. I was so excited to both the vagus nerve class back in August, and then body mapping and body wisdom, and then that one. Like, I was so excited to teach that. And there's still more to them, but like doing that class last weekend, I was just like, oh, never in a million years did I think I was going to be teaching that class. And it's really not that complicated. Like, if you think about it, that was not a very complicated class, but it was deep. Remember, even Peter said, like, at one point he goes, yeah, one of the techniques is really like, kind of, what do you say, like simple or remedial or something, and he goes, but the effect was amazing. It was, there's been a lot of setup to the stuff that we're doing now, because your energy body also needs to be prepped for it a bit, and we're not wanting to completely step away from the logical mind, but we're wanting to be able to step away from it for a bit. And so sometimes some of the prep is just prepping the logical mind to be able to stay put when you step away from it, kind of. Because the logical mind is not used to you stepping out of it for a bit. It's so wound up for survival that we just, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And just so you know, like, people are all like, yeah, let's do this. The name of the group could be Rabbit Holing.
Yeah.
Someone said, I've had many of the same thoughts and questions as Laura.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I'm not so concerned about doing it right, yet validation would help me to be more confident in prayer and meditation and all the processes of our classes.
I would say that doing it as a group and doing it kind of in a way that's guided will help, like, get your legs under you while we do it. It's it's kind of an odd thing. It's like you don't always do the same thing to get to that same place. Like, it's a very spontaneous thing. It's like walking through a set of stones in a garden or something, but the stones always move and are always changing, but you're trying to get to that same place every time. Yeah.
Thank you, Greg.
You're
That was
so
great.
And sign me up for whatever he's alluding to.
Mhm.
And then go ahead, Deborah, then Rebecca.
Hey, Deborah.
Hey, Greg.
Hey.
Hey, Sam. I've been missing in action about it. I'm looking forward to catching back up.
Yeah, how's everything been? You been okay?
Um, I'm still integrating all the stuff that I did in Sedona.
Oh, all the
Um,
myofascial stuff?
yeah, there's been a
Yeah.
lot of shifting that's gone on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and the topics that you just brought up really relate to where
Mhm,
I am right now. I
mhm,
was already feeling it before, but even more so now. And I put a real vote in for um, the the mantra and the I call them tools. I don't know much about those. I kind of use them in ways that just intuitively feel right to me, but
mhm,
I'm sure I could make them more powerful if I
mhm,
knew other ways. So I put a vote for that. But I also, um, the comment about validation, like I'm in this place where you've two things here where all of the programming, you refer to it as something different, but all that
uh,
soup of what I've lived in all these years,
sure.
I'm referring to as programming. That I am like, what I'm really doing is like scraping that away,
Right,
trying to find that soul that I was when I came into this life,
right.
and um, and trying to tap into what all of that is.
Mhm,
And so it's there's sort of a flow that's happening that I'm trying to look through and understand the pieces of, well, I thought I'd opened up this piece and that intuitive piece was working for me, and then all of a sudden it feels like, oh, that's gone. Where is it?
mhm.
And um, so that's what I'm assuming is part of the integration of everything that is going to come together.
Yeah, like in kind of like it's a different way of saying like something that I was just saying where um we kind of go back and forth between logic and intuition or intellect and intuition, and when we get into the more intuitive side, which is beyond rational thought and the senses, is it's like a landscape that keeps shifting and changing, and so you kind of keep looking for the same road signs, but they're going to be in a different language and a different color, but you're going to have to translate it. It's almost kind of like that a little bit. And
It's getting
because the
comfortable with
nature
the
of our
uncomfortable.
yeah. Oh yeah, trust me, I'm very aware of that. Yeah, yeah. But that's the nature of the logical mind, is it synthesizes things. And so when it has some information, it kind of synthesizes like, oh, this means this, or this has this value, or this is what I do when I do XYZ. And if we're truly going beyond the logical mind, we have to also let go of some of the things that it synthesized. You know what I mean? Like, so we have these ideas, and it's almost like, you hear those stories, or at least I did when I was growing up in Catholic school, about being able to recognize Christ if he didn't look like Christ or was called Christ. It would be like a homeless man coming up to you and you didn't know that it was Christ, or, something like that. And it's that same idea of being able to see see what is like of the light, or the light, or of the soul, rather than of the lower nature, or of the earth, and or of the logical mind. And it's for a while you kind of wrestle with yourself for a little bit, and then when you're kind of done wrestling with yourself, then the next phase is then like, okay, now I can communicate. And so, and until the wrestling with the self is kind of resolved a little bit, and I don't know, when we get done with that, or that's a whole nother ball of wax. But you know, like you said, you're trying to chisel away the things from life and even all the way down into youth, you know, where you were closer to that purity of the soul than, you know, after high school or something, you know, when all of that stuff's happened. And you know, I would say even to a greater degree, that same idea of stepping away from lifetimes of that, you know, um
Well, it
is
is a lot of the
part of,
lifetime
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
for
Like
sure.
that's definitely like kind of part of the breaking of that egg. And so, you know, a lot of the things that we do are about, like you said, chipping away that conditioning or that programming and stuff. And then you keep still trying to, like, okay, and then we'll try to have that communion or that communication, and you come back and go, okay, what happened? And then, you know, you kind of go back and forth, and it's um
There's
the
another,
place that I saw it, that I thought it was the most like a physicalization of that was when I was on the reservation, and it's the Sundance. And, you know, they erect a tree in the middle of this arbor, and they dig a hole because you know, it symbolizes the tree of life. So the tree doesn't have roots to the earth, it has the roots to God. And so the dancers, they they dance around this tree for 4 days, 4 nights, no food, no water, or very little water, I should say. And they dance close, and then they're far away, and then they're close, and they're far away, and they're close, and they're far away. And they keep doing this over and over again. And then at some point, they completely step out of the logical mind. And, you know, that's the way that it is for us, like in everyday life, is, you know, we step out of the logical mind for a little bit, and then we're back in, and then we step out, and then we're back in, and we step out. And the goal is, at first we're just trying to do that, but then when we get our legs under us a little bit, to be able to do that and call it up on a dime, like, okay, I'm stepping out now, like that's the goal. And that takes practice. That just um it's just doing it a bunch of times so that it becomes, comfortable is not the right word, but it is familiar. That's the best way to say it. Like, you know it when it's there. It's like, you know, you ever gone to a place where as soon as you pull into the town, or you see the town or something, you're like, I love that feeling. Oh, you know, or, you know, your old neighborhood, or, you know, it's a lot like that.
so what you're saying really resonates to the point where it's like bringing me to tears.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not logical where these tears are arising
Yeah.
from. It's like it's it's like you're touching so close
Yeah.
to what to where I am right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And it's nice to hear it from someone,
Right.
because our world is so more complicated than I've experienced it. My world is more complicated than I've experienced it before, because I have this awareness of this vastness of the universe and all of this information and the transformation that our universe is poised upon right now, and all these different ways in which it's revealing that to us. And I am eagerly trying to jump in, and the world around us, there's so few people that can speak that language to
Yeah.
support this awareness. And your classes and even this little Q&A and everything is that one little touch of what feels like my reality
Right.
and the people that you draw to it.
Yeah.
So I've been searching for a connection with others that I can share this with. And even amongst the people that might be attracted to your classes, everyone is that I've been associated with, even lightly,
Mhm.
it's like they're very protected around themselves in their journey.
Mhm.
And so it doesn't lend itself to community. And
Right.
it's a so so to have, and it's one of the reasons I got so involved with pranic healing, is that
Mhm.
there was something consistent that I could reach out to have as a practice, but it doesn't fulfill me because I see so many limitations around it for my personal practice.
Mhm.
So I've so to have like what you're proposing in January to sound so much encompassing. And um, the other piece that just wanted to throw out is that there there's so many exciting gems that you offer that it gets difficult for me to say no to a class, but sometimes my body,
Yeah. Oh,
my
yeah. 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 Yeah.
needs a rest
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to integrate
I
all
hear
that
you.
I've taken in. So then I get
Think
on
of
these
it. Think of
calls and it's like fear of missing out starts to resonate and I have to calm that down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Think of it like this. Like the classes are a lot more like a rhythm or a flow of something rather than like multiple classes are moving in the same direction. You could say it's more about movement than it is about information. And so like if you miss one or something and then you come back and you jump in, you're back into the stream of things. Like
Okay.
think of it more like that.
Okay.
You know, there's
Because
times where, you know, you can't go swimming 30 minutes after you eat your food. You got to take a break from time to time. Like that's
yeah.
understandable. You know what I mean? Like there's times where you go, okay, you know, like we do this practice that generates a lot of movement, the Mi Long thing. And you know, we do it when we go in um the classes where we're in person now. We've started doing it for like what the last 3 months, 2 months. Yeah.
Oh,
And
you
so
started it with at Bobby's, right? You started it at Bobby's?
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I think
actually
so.
think so.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so we'll be there in the middle of January. So you guys will get to experience it there in Sarasota. And like, you know, we do it here like 2 or 3 times a week at you know, at home with, you know, a couple people or us and everything. And you know, it's amazing, but even after a while, we're like, okay, but we need a break for a while. It can get a little intense. And so um
And
you
there's
know, because
sometimes
intuition equals movement, and intellect or logic is repetition, and one's not better than the other. We're trying to harness them both, but we're so used to logic and repetition that you know it takes us a while to get used to the movement. But the movement you can't stay in there forever. Like you know, you do the movement, then you go, okay, I need a break. You know, there's
well,
nothing wrong with that.
the other piece is that sometimes my life demands that
Sure.
I don't have the movement so that I can deal with
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
other things.
That's a very real thing. You know, very real thing. Yeah. Like sometimes
So
even how we schedule things are like we can only handle so much and like how we'll bounce around and even like the workload of like the things that we're presenting, it's because we can only handle so much movement before we have to take care of normal everyday stuff. And so even like on our end, we're always trying to like juggle juggle the two. And you know,
So,
at first
so-
it's a little overwhelming, but after a while you get kind of used to it.
well, I look forward to that moment.
Yeah, yeah.
So the discernment is the big piece of all of this, and
Mhm.
and the validation offers that
Mhm.
sort of movement to help discernment.
Sure.
So how somebody mentioned about validation, where do we get that in all of this? That's still, you have to look within for that. Is that not true?
Yeah, and it depends. Like, it could be like, are you asking like validation that it applies or that it's accurate? Like, what? There's different kinds of validation, I guess, is what I'm saying. If it's validation that this is like like an inner experience that you're trying to validate, I'll share my little personal thing with, like, especially like deeper experiences. I know that it's usually more genuine when I cannot communicate it to other people. Like, I try and I try and I try and nobody gets it. And like, if you think about like when you have like some experience and you start to talk about it, it's like, you know how words don't do it justice. And then people go, oh yeah, yeah, my cousin did that, da, 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 da. And you know, those inner experiences are just that, inner experiences. And sometimes when you're touching something outside of the rational mind, and then you try to make sense out of it with rational thought, it's a normal thing to do, but at some point you realize that it's just kind of futile. Like, it's just, you know, like sometimes I think I'm trying to convince myself of why I should do my practice. You know,
Uh,
when I have those inner experiences, I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I want more of this. But like, if I was to try to explain it to somebody that I knew, like an old friend or something, they would have no reference. You know what I mean? And so yeah, it's the part where you wrestle with yourself a little bit, and you're doing healing and you're letting go of trauma and you're doing those things. That stuff you usually can talk about. Like, people might not completely get it, but they get the idea. But when you go beyond that, it's almost like there's a different world out there that people don't always see. In fact, that's actually I want to say it's Hopi prophecy or Zuni prophecy about this time where there's two worlds.
Hopi.
Yeah, two worlds. And one where people are walking around kind of going a little bit crazy, and people who are experiencing this other realm. And it's really just talking about a change of an age. But like, you see all the craziness happening in the world, it's because something big is coming. Like, in a good way, something big is coming, but it's making everybody a little nuts.
Well, I'm really tapped into a lot of that stuff right now. So that's part of the piece that's I feel like I'm living in two worlds, and I'm trying to integrate them.
Yeah. You
And
are
that's a
living in two
challenge.
worlds. Like,
Yeah,
we're all living, well, if you're doing it right, you're living in two worlds.
yeah. So here's another thing. This is sort of a different slant to the topic, and that is, this is a real practical thing that's personal for me.
Mhm.
Is I came back from Sedona, and I really processed some really nice things through Thanksgiving, and then returned back to home after Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden, like within a few days, I would wake up and feel like this. It started out just kind of like a little nervous feeling that I can't really explain, because I feel things really viscerally,
Mhm.
and then as each day went by, the way that I would feel in the morning was getting more and more intense, and it's still happening. And that feeling of like, I just need to sleep. I just need to sleep. I just need to sleep. I can't, I'm not ready to get up and start my day. And this can go on for the struggle for a little while. It's like, I'm not depressed. There's nothing I'm depressed about. There's
And you
something
haven't been
else
like
going
sick or
on.
you haven't been sick or anything like that?
No. I
Okay.
am experiencing though a lot of like, it'll be hot outside and I'm freezing cold. Um, like I went to the gym right before this class, and I'm in the gym on the machine, and I've got like my sweatshirt on, and it took me, my heart rate is still at 126, and I'm not sweating. It's just like something is happening in my body that's really different.
Yeah. So you had all that fascial work.
And even my appetite has really changed.
And it's greater or it's less or
It's not so much quantity, it's like what I crave and don't crave.
okay. Um, I mean, you just did have a bunch of fascial work done, but
3 weeks.
yeah. So I would say that you could approach it two ways. Like anytime you have a bunch of fascial work, you are shifting the body around, and that you feel the need to sleep, you could just let yourself sleep a bit, because the thing is you're shifting the body quite a bit, and for that to happen, it happens more in rest and repair. And so you might need, I mean, that's a very common side effect of fascial work. Like you sleep a little bit more. You're shifting your nervous system, you're shifting your body, and it needs time to like have that happen. And so I would say you could lean into it and let that happen. Or if you need to stay functional, which I get as well, I would use like cinnamon or savory internal multiple times a day. Like, how we might do like 2 or 3 drops once or twice a day. I do it like 4 or 5 times a day.
And do you think that will also help with the n- anx- it's not really anxiety, it's more like anxiety is like trying to put a label on it. It's like my body just feels like there's like like a little bit of butterflies, and that's not butterflies, and it's just all these kind of like,
It's you shifting. Yeah, that's stuff shifting. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So it'll
Think of it like this, like sometimes the shifting, you shift and you're kind of like you said, like you're trying to chip away at the conditioning or the past, or whatever we're calling that. And when it does fall away, it's like also something familiar falls away, and you're like, but now what? Like
uh-huh.
it's not conscious, but that causes a little bit of like, ugh. Like the little bit of that butterfly, or like, I don't know what I'm gonna do next, or I don't know what's gonna happen. Where when we had that conditioning, we knew how it was gonna play out. Like, it's like, I don't like it, but I also know what's gonna happen. You know what I mean? And when that starts to fall away, it's like, oh, I didn't like it, I'm glad it's falling away, but at the same time, now I don't know what's going to happen. And so that's kind of normal to have those little like flutters, or not being sure. And so the best thing to do with that is to go back to being aware of your body. Like, okay, be aware of my body. Where do I feel it in my body? Relax into that part of my body, and then just kind of sit with it. And it doesn't chase that away, but it doesn't make it so that you need to chase it away. Like, you're like, okay, something different's happening, and you're just allowing for something new or spontaneous to happen. And over a period of time, that becomes a habit. So, and that always, there's like levels or waves of that, you could say.
Okay. And then,
Yeah.
and then the cinnamon during the day, for the
Yeah,
days that I
cinnamon
really
just-
need to be functioning.
Cinnamon gives you energy. It energizes the brain. It's activating to the heart. It helps to integrate. Like it makes you a little bit more thick skin so that as you're changing, you won't be too overly sensitive to the environment. I mean, I just took a bunch of cinnamon today just for the same reason. Like I was like, okay, been doing a bunch of ceremony and stuff. Like, you know, if you think about like that thing with Abramelin, it's like what they would consecrate the tabernacle with and the altar and everything. And it's cinnamon, it's cassia, it's myrrh, and calamus. And King David used to burn it in his tent all the time. And part of it is because of like when you have the movement and you have all that, that cinnamon is so fortifying that it allows you to kind of keep the momentum happening. Yeah.
So maybe burning some of that incense might be helpful too.
Yeah. Yeah, we burn Abramelin every day.
Mhm.
Every day. I make
Okay.
a big thing, you know how I make it for you guys? I make a big brick of it like for us, and we stick it in a bag, and like every day in the morning we get up and it's the first thing we burn.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It should be helpful. You know, like I use cinnamon and actually the one that I was using today is this blend called Liberation. You know, it's an old blend that I used to make, but it's cinnamon, savory, clove, and lemon. And so it's very good for like anti-flu, anti-influenza, but it helps you to step out of the box. Like basically, and what we're talking about is you're getting those little feelings because you're stepping out of your box. You know, like the old story of, you know, I had a teacher that he told this story. He goes, you know, say a chicken grows up in the chicken coop all these years, and the only light that it ever sees is the light bulb, and it's all cramped and everything, and it lives that way for 4 or 5 years. And finally you take that chicken out of the chicken coop and you take it outside and you show it the sunlight and you go, you know, here, be a free range chicken and go run around and enjoy the sunlight. The first thing it does is it beelines back to the chicken coop because that's the light it knows. You know, you think it would want the sunlight? No. And so we have a part of that in us. You know, it's tied to that logical mind. And like I would say, it's good to acknowledge it and honor it, but at the same time, we have to kind of keep stepping out of the coop from time to time, keep stepping out of the box. And cinnamon and savory and clove, all of that really helps you like step out of the box so that as you kind of shed some of the repetition of the logical mind, you can kind of like go, but I'm okay with it. You know, I'll step into it when I want to, not because I'm running back like the chicken. You know, like I'll choose it. And you know, because like you said, sometimes you got to get back into the normal everyday life and you got to take care of business and you got to, you know, pay those bills, or you got to, you know, deal with the contractor, or, you know, whatever it is. But then there's times where you meditate and that part of your mind is not involved in that. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Rebecca.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you. So many wonderful nuggets here. So I was here 3 weeks ago on Linda invited me to talk about the pulmonary fibrosis.
Yes.
And I may not be pronouncing what you told me to get right, but helichrysum?
Right.
Yes, okay. So I wanted to come back. I had a couple of questions and kind of give you what my experience was.
Okay, yeah, let's hear.
So I started doing 2 drops internally, AM and PM. The first night I used it, a few hours after I took it internally, I had an intense coughing fit and I was curled up in bed, and I had a really vivid sensation of struggling to breathe at birth.
Oh, wow.
So I said, okay, there's that.
Right.
And that kind of led me to some things that I was already tipping my toes in around doing some some generational trauma work and some soul transformation work with family members, because this disease has a family genetic component to it,
Sure.
apparently.
Sure.
So that was the kind of the big thing, and it keeps coming up. I keep getting little images of that, of, oh yeah, that's right, but you can breathe and you're okay.
And how is your breathing right now? Like, it's been what, 3 weeks? Like,
It's
how is your
been 3 weeks. I'm also doing the pulmonary fibrosis protocol, the chronic healing protocol.
Right.
It is definitely better.
Okay.
I have this emotional attachment to the oil. Like, I have to have it sitting next to me.
Yeah.
I'm not letting myself use it as often because I feel like there's some emotional attachment to it. So I made it as a body tonic as well,
Okay.
and I use
Okay.
that after showering. I take it internally morning and night, and sometimes I use the body tonic during the day if I'm having some tightness in my chest, and it relieves it almost instantly. But there's a definite visceral, this is something that I need and my body wants. So that's wonderful. What I haven't done with it is, and that was my question was, you had suggested using it as inhaling it. And I didn't know if it was just the standard way that I've seen on
Yeah,
to do
like
inhaling.
like take the bottle like so, and then you can just like hold it like maybe an inch or two from the nose, and then just
Okay,
through
I'm
the
doing
nose,
that. Okay.
and then out through the mouth, and
Okay.
like 15 20 times, and then give yourself a break, and then do it like 15 or 20 times. Let your body kind of tell you like, this is enough, I could use a little more. And if you only do 10 or 15 inhalations, great. If you do it for a little while, like you're doing it for 15 or 20 minutes, like on and off like that, and your body can handle it, then I would say great as well. So
Okay.
let your
Okay.
body be the guide. But like, part of the craving might even be you might like just like inhaling it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very soothing, especially if there's old traumas and things. It helps to release it, but the traumas could be physical in the body. It could be just old things that happen to us that we are not even aware of.
Right.
Like sometimes traumas or things didn't happen. Like, going back to like a baby crying and somebody did not pick them up or something. It could be something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about the birth thing is that I was very premature, so I spent the first 30 days of my life in a incubator.
How far along were you when you were born?
A little over 7 months.
Okay.
So I was just about a little over 3 pounds, which
Right.
given my age is kind of amazing that I'm here. Because I have a lot more techniques now for dealing with that.
Yeah.
So it's always sort of been this, it's been a trauma that I've worked with on and off through my life about what that was like, because there I was in this.
Well,
I
yeah,
was
especially if
I
you're
was
in
the chicken under the light, right?
right, exactly. I was just gonna say, like, especially if you're in an incubator for a little while, like you didn't get the bonding time with mom. Yeah.
So,
That's always
okay.
rough.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Are you okay with that? Like, you have like things that pop up because of that?
A little bit, but I've done a lot of work around, I wasn't abandoned, I was cared for, I was warm, I was fed,
Right.
and I was
Right.
where I needed to be. So
Right.
I've done some good shifting around that to make
So,
myself be okay with that.
Like, if I would like maybe see if like exploring something, because some of that, like all of that I would agree with, but also there's the thing that's lacking at that age is touch. And so
Yeah.
I would say like get like a soft blanket or something and wrap up in the soft blanket and inhale the helichrysum. Like something
Okay.
that feels good, like the touch feels good, and let that be a thing, and inhale the helichrysm. And I've done like versions of that with people who were born prematurely, and most times that kind of like soothes something that they were looking for. Like it's not
Yeah.
that you're like mentally looking for it, but your body was like, I want that. You know,
That's
it's
what-
almost
yeah.
like give it that for a little bit until it just goes, okay, I'm good. You know,
Yeah.
it might be a week, it might be a month, it might be that you travel with your alpaca blanket for a little while, and you know, I don't know. I love me an alpaca blanket, so like they're very, very soft. So
Okay, okay. Thank you. I think that was all that I needed to know.
yeah.
I also did just briefly want to say I'm really enjoying the YouTube videos, the self-healing,
Oh,
the
good.
skin pore breathing,
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
Lama yoga.
Yeah.
I had a lot of stress, and those are just really helping me out. So
Oh, good.
thank you. Yeah,
You're so welcome.
thank you.
And then we have a share and a question in chat as well.
Mhm.
This was just a share earlier when you were talking to Deborah.
Mhm.
And it was just that we, the human we, gets worried that we are doing it wrong,
Yeah.
or we look like we are doing it wrong, or opening ourselves up to being judged by others.
Yeah.
And it was just something that kind of
Yeah.
came up for them.
So I mean that's actually a very common theme, and that's part of stepping away from the logical mind. Is like, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm doing it wrong. Somebody's going to judge me. I'm not doing it right, or I'm not doing it like I'm supposed to. When you get more to the intuitive side, it's like, what's that thing? You're dancing like nobody's watching, like you just don't care. And there's times that we should care about, like what other people, you know, like fitting in and things. There is things that are tied to functioning in a society, and then there's parts where we need to be able to step away from it. And I would say that, like, when you have that feeling, it's because you're in process of stepping away from the rational side of your mind. Yeah, that's a very common theme. Very, very common theme. You know, I would say, if that's not coming up for you, then you're not doing it right. You should be scaring your logical mind a little bit. No, I joke, but part of stepping into intuition, you know, it brings up abandonment, because at some point you start stepping away from the collective unconscious, and you start becoming more about who you are rather than what other people have influenced you to be. And so everybody wrestles with the abandonment kind of issue, however it might look, because you are stepping away from something. So those feelings coming up, when they come up, you can, you know, we've done things where we have talked about abandonment and everything, and you know, there's classes and little protocols that you can do to work that. But at the same time, you know, it's how, like when we're talking about with Deborah, is like when that feeling comes up, go, okay, where do I feel that in my body? Where do I feel that in my spine? And then just sit with it for a little bit. And you'll notice that it's very transient, right? So it only gets like amplified that if we get like super reactive to it, like instinctual reaction, which means that you're not really thinking about it mentally or emotionally, but your body is like, yeah. And so one of the first steps is not the first steps, but one of the deeper steps is just to be able to go, okay, where do I feel this in my body? Where do I, and you're giving your body permission to kind of process it, and you're deepening your connection or your awareness of the environment, of the situation, and you're allowing the intuitive mind to play a role in what's happening there. And it starts to shift that, like you're allowing for there to be a shift, or you're allowing for change. And doesn't mean it's always going to be changing, but it's just like a step and then a step and then a step. You know, change happens in a bunch of little movements. And so we just got to get used to being able to be non-reactive when something feels a little uncomfortable. It's normal for it to feel uncomfortable, by the way. Like you're not doing anything wrong. I remember for myself, something that was very liberating. Like I still remind myself of this sometimes, is that I had the like almost identical thought. Like it was like, oh, I'm being judged. People are judging me. People are this or that. And then I had this aha moment. People aren't paying that much attention to me. Like I'm not really that big of a thing for people to be going, look what he's doing. Like when I lay my head down at night, I'm the only one that was aware of it. Nobody else was aware of it. And so yeah, it's because you're in the process of stepping out of logic. You're stepping out of rational thought. Yeah. Yeah.
They said maybe abandonment might be something to add to the deeper stuff Greg was talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, we could revisit. I mean, there's that class, but we could even do another version of that class. Like it's like how long ago did we do that class? Like a year ago?
Yeah, I think it was.
It was a
little
free
over-
class,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'll get the link up for you
Yeah,
guys.
that we did a whole free weekend one time on abandonment. And then there's been like little short things, but we could also, there's mystical versions of working the abandonment thing quite substantially. Even the 3 brain work works the abandonment stuff quite substantially. Like the oils, like Palmarosa and what is it? Palmarosa, frankincense, rose, lotus. All of those are very helpful for abandonment. You know, I think the protocols that we did were tarragon, rue, hyssop, splendor, and like basil. In that class.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we did post the class there for you guys in the
Mhm.
if you're interested, if
Mhm.
you didn't have a chance to take that class.
Yeah.
And then go ahead, Donita.
Hey, Miss Donita.
Hi, Greg. Hi,
Hey,
Sam.
hey. How are you?
Good. Wonderful and amazing class that I'm still spinning the wheels. And you know, the dreams.
Mhm.
Okay, so I had the Sunday night, I had the wildest, craziest packed dream of like full of messages that I have no idea how to decipher them, not even trying, but just a bit intense that I couldn't shake it off, even to now, like the details I could remember. And then last night, so I thought it's just a one night thing. And last night was, again, just different. But again, very detailed, very weird, very message. I can feel it's like filled with like lots of messaging. Yet I have no idea how to interpret.
Yeah, I would say with the class that we just did, the medulla and the vagus nerve class, the you know, there's dreams where we process, and then there's travel. And travel is sometimes sliding up and down like this ladder, you could say. You know, you hear those stories of Jacob's ladder, where they go up into the higher realms and down into the lower realms. The more that you're able to engage the movement, the more you can slide up and down that ladder as needed. And some of like where there's so much detail and everything, it's like you're getting used to sliding up and down that ladder. Yeah.
There's some details. It's just like
Yeah.
wild, like it's
Like,
just
especially
like
if it's wild
fantasy
and like
movie. I
crazy,
was like,
crazy amounts of information, it might be that you were sliding up and down the ladder.
that was insane. But you know,
Yeah.
the only thing that was more sane was me waking up in the morning to this message. And actually the words were actually still kind of coming to me. And you popped in, of course, the class, but the message was interesting. It's like, you know how you accentuate this breathing and purifying the arms and the legs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the message was like, put your
Okay, now I know
awareness.
you were traveling because that's
Oh,
part of the package. Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
the message was just like, keep your awareness on the arms and the legs,
Yeah.
and that will help you. What was the words? It's like, it will help you move forward with your life. It will assist in like moving forward. So getting out of stagnation. It will just
Yeah.
help to just like move. So keep the awareness on the arms and the legs. That's it. And that will make you go forward.
Yeah.
And I'm probably butchering the words, but
No, your
yeah.
arms and legs. Sometimes on the after effect, you look at the spine and the organs of blood purification, but as far as being able to slide up and down that dream ladder, whatever you want to call it, arms and legs play a big role in that, a very big role. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Because even today, when I just
Yeah.
briefly,
Keep
because
them
I was
clean.
busy.
Keep cleaning them. Just keep cleaning them.
Uh,
There's a
What's
reason
the
why we
best
always
for
spend
me?
time
I know.
cleaning them with different things,
Okay,
like
so what comes to mind for me? Because I have plenty of oils. What would be the best for me to go deeper? Or whatever. Lighter. Doesn't need to be deeper.
why don't you do like either aloes or assemblage point or something like that?
I'm doing the 3 brains almost every day with the Meng Main back heart and
Very good.
the
But
crown
like
with
do them
a.
on the assemblage point or aloes, like on the arms and legs. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. White wood will work, right?
Yeah.
And do I write down the dreams or just like body part
Yeah.
turning into cement wheel? Does it matter?
I mean, if there's like messages and stuff, but like
I don't understand.
sometimes
I don't
it's
know.
just like, you know how like sometimes you go on vacation and you go through all these places and you go, I'm gonna take these pictures, and then you never look at them again. I mean, that's kind of what happens in like these kinds of dreams. It's a little bit like that, but I'd say the value in writing something down is that sometimes in the writing, it helps you bring something forth from the other side. And so if you feel that it's something about that, like, and if you write a whole bunch and nothing really comes through, then I'd be like, but you're
Okay.
writing, and then like as you're writing, more information comes, then I'd pay attention to that. But usually, even by the time you write it, my experience is I write it, but then 15 minutes later, I've already moved past what I've written. And so the act itself of writing was important to concretize it and bring it forth. But
Okay, I get. I
you
understand
know
what
what
you're
I mean?
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot because that was quite funny yesterday. So it's just insane dreams. I woke up in the morning on Monday morning, shook my head and was like, oh my gosh, was trying to shake it off. And then I went nuts and I cleaned my kitchen pantry that I wanted to do it for a few years.
Yeah.
I spent a few hours. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. It was just funny. It was like making
Well,
room.
it's an interesting thing because when you go into deeper states of intuition and you come back to like your normal everyday mind, one of the signs is you kind of come back and you go, okay, I need to establish order, like and you like start like
You have no idea. I
you
threw
start
out
cleaning up
everything.
something, you
Oh,
start arranging something, Like I think Dan said over the weekend, he was like, yeah, I was feeling all mellow, and then I cleaned out a drawer in the kitchen or wherever it was at. And it's like stuff like that. Like I did a bunch of weird things today that Samantha was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm okay, but this has to be straightened out.
Thank
I've
Okay,
been
so
staring at
perfect.
it for weeks, but apparently today was the day that,
It's so
right?
funny.
She's laughing really hard because I was a little bit like a maniac.
That's what me yesterday. That was me
Yeah,
yesterday. I was
yeah,
non-stop. I didn't sleep well, but I
yeah,
was non-stop till like 4 in the afternoon.
yeah.
I was like busy with just like maniac. So
Like
thank you.
think about it like this, so Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The Seven Dwarfs symbolize the seven chakras, and they're tied to the earth. They're not developed yet. And Snow White is the Kundalini energy that is laying dormant, and the prince is the soul that comes in and kisses the princess and wakes up the princess, right? So when the princess wakes up, which is the energy down in our basic, what does the princess do? She cleans the house and feeds the dwarves. And so like here we're talking about the descent of energy. And like it was cracking me up over the weekend. They were like, and then I got up and I cleaned out this door, and then I cleaned this and I cleaned that. It's literally like cleaning the house and feeding the dwarves. And so yeah, it's the nature of the soul to establish like an order for it to like maintain its presence. And it's not that a messy drawer doesn't allow the soul to come in, but it just starts to be like your physiology going, there's guests coming, we got to like put everything in place. And so the manifestation of that in spiritual practices is the use of an altar. Like you're putting things in a certain order so that something can descend and stay. And so it's like the cleaning up in and around the house or putting something in order, or like I have to organize this in a particular way. It's just a physical manifestation of what's starting to happen on the inside. Yeah, it's
So it's just like
actually, yeah, it's a very good thing. Yeah.
so it's like a spiritual OCD.
Yeah, it's kind of like a spiritual OCD. Right?
Oh, thank you so much for this. There's just a little comment, just an observation over the weekend. During this class, for some reason, Saturday and Sunday, I was extra hungry. I was very hungry.
Yeah.
I was just like, I was very hungry through the whole 2 days. Is that normal?
It can be with, because when the body is shifting or when it's experienced like high vibrational energy, like the body shifts. And one of the ways that the body, like, it needs the fuel for the shift, like it used to crack me up at doing like meditation weekends, like a retreat or something. People would go crazy at the snack table. Like there would just be like all the worst snacks you could possibly have, and people were like locusts just over there just rah, 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 rah. And that's a kind of a universal thing. Yeah.
Okay. And one more, just a little small thing. Because I forgot to mention that during the class, I was too zonked out. When we were inhaling on the sides of the spine, my spine was tickling. Even thinking about it, I was tickling. It's like it was tickling and making me giggle.
Yeah, I can see it being uplifting. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I can see that. Yeah.
Okay. So that's not just something weird.
It's not weird. Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think everybody had that experience, but it's not weird. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regarding my interesting dreams, do I want to just let them unfold, or do I want to, clean the arms and legs, but do I want to do something to enhance them? You could
write them down a little bit, but
no, like for example, tonight, Like
Oh,
to
do a little bit of the practice from the weekend and, I'd
which
jump right back in.
the end, second day, first day?
Um, Give me just a sec here. Do the segment 4.
Segment 4. Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. And do I do it every night or it's as long as the
I do it
dreams
for
are
the
coming?
next few nights, maybe.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This is
You're
wild.
so
This
welcome.
weekend was a bit wild, just like my dreams. Thank you.
You're so.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
And then a couple questions and another share.
Yeah, right away.
We have some fun classes coming up. Could you talk about Uncle Bob dealing with difficult people and the esoteric meaning of green and red for Christmas?
Oh yeah. Where did I? Will you grab me my other iPad so I could look up my notes?
Yeah.
I have to look up my notes for some of these sometimes. So which one was it?
So dealing with difficult people, the Uncle Bob one, and then the esoteric meaning of green and red.
I don't know why it doesn't show up on this iPad when they do it on the other. Okay, so Uncle Bob. Okay, so Uncle Bob is just that, dealing with Uncle Bob. I thought it was like good timing with the holidays. Usually it's when we see our relatives and who can push our buttons better than our relatives. And so there's that, but this also would apply just to people at the office, people in your circle, friends, whatever. And so we have kind of several things that we're looking at. And one is just like how to be able to interact with somebody that's like this. Maybe the point of being triggered. How do we feel? How we would talk about being like protection with somebody like this also plays a component in it, but not protection like it's just like emotionally having like like a bit of a barrier so that somebody is just not like all in your space or pushing your buttons. And so there's kind of like these like steps or phases that we're looking at. And one is just not to be triggered. And then 2 is to be able to kind of firm up the energy body so that when they take those little emotional pokes, they don't go all the way in and make you spin out in your head a little bit. Then to be able to stand your ground and keep your feet under you and not feel that you need to run away or basically to be a little bit more daring with the person or a little bit more I would say like I like the ability in this particular scenario to say no. Like, if somebody is being obnoxious and they're pushing you this way, that way, and sometimes you just like, I'm just going to go in, so they stop or they go away. And it just doesn't usually stop them. The ability to kind of stand your ground a little bit. And, I go back to like when I was a little kid And I was at my grandparents' house, and one of their friends that they knew came by, and he made these like deviled eggs that, at a 5-year, 6-year-old, I thought they were disgusting. And he kept like pushing, like, hey, have one of these, have one of these, have one of these. And I was like, nope, nope, no, no. And finally he kind of cornered me in the house. He was bound and determined that I was going to eat one of those deviled eggs. And finally I gave in, and like, I'm sure later in life I would have thought it was fine, but at that time it was disgusting. And I think part of it was that he pushed me to eat something I didn't want to eat. And so I was traumatized by that thing in my mouth. And then the thing that he just kept like pushing and pushing and pushing. And, granted, I was a little kid. I didn't have the ability to push back and everything. But how many times later in life do you just kind of go along because you're afraid to say no, or it's uncomfortable to say no, and so that is one of the things that we're gonna. It doesn't mean that it's like you're aggressive, but you're just like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And so just being able to have the choice, and when you're dealing with an Uncle Bob, a lot of times they take your choice away. At least my experience is they take your choice away. And time for us to take that choice back. Bob doesn't get to have it. So there's that. And then just sometimes like, like you feel weighed down, or like, I use the term like heavy hearted sometimes, where just the energy feels heavy or just feel weighed down. It's usually excessive amounts of stress, but like I would call it like a toxic kind of stress. And the reason why I say toxic is it can make your physiology change. Stress can be uncomfortable and fatiguing, and make you not be able to do something. But when it reaches like a toxic level, it can actually cause like physiological issues like inflammation or something not working properly. And so like, what is a way to go through and manage this or handle this? There's that component. And then being able to elevate out of the lower emotions, out of those anger, irritated, frustrated, difficult, whatever difficult lower emotion, including like self-sabotage. The ability to kind of shift out of that into being able to again, deal with the difficult person and stay lighthearted or stay happy or still see the positive, even when that person is being obnoxious. Because like, if you think about like an Uncle Bob, at some point, it's like they need everything to be surrounding them, like rotating around them. And that you don't give them, I don't want to say the time of day, but you don't give them the energy that they're demanding. Not because you're in this like power struggle, but just because you just kind of don't care. You just elevate your way out of it. And anyway. And then just the ability to communicate and interact with your own personal Uncle Bob. Be able to voice whatever you're going to voice. Be able to be around them and not feel that you have to run away and protect yourself and hide. Sometimes we're conscious of these things, sometimes we're not. But if you start paying attention to how you behave around that person who makes you uncomfortable, it's like that thing that we were saying a few weeks ago, where Uncle Bob's just Uncle Bob. Allow him to be, and it's like he loses the ability to control you. But like when you're trying to fight all the stuff that he's doing, and little games that they play or the little manipulations, they still have a little control over you. So there's almost like a bit of a detachment that happens when you deal with somebody like that. And I mean, everybody can use that skill set. I mean, honestly, in the corporate setting, that's one of the things that we would talk about quite often is, I didn't say Uncle Bob, but we would talk about that person who's just that obnoxious person that you're dealing with. And so some of the things we'll be talking about is like how to treat it with oils and develop these certain things, but also just some practical like skill sets of how to verbally interact with them and how to manage somebody like that. And so, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And the other one was the red and green.
Yes.
So red and green, like if I can't remember what class we got into it, but we were talking about the green lion with the red stars and the lion is eating the sun. We'll provide a picture on the booklet, but it's actually tied to an alchemical process. And it's tied to like the aspect of solstice. And so one, you're dealing with the cycle of the creative cycle, but it's like light and darkness. And in the time where we're in the winter solstice on the Earth axis, we're the furthest part from the sun. And the sun a lot of times symbolizes the aspect of God or spiritual teacher, an inner spiritual teacher. And when we have the greatest distance from it, like most of us, like the general population, you feel better when you're closer to like your teacher, or like, when we're young, we feel closer to when you're near your parents, and when you're away from them, it feels a little uncomfortable. And it's the same idea with the spiritual teacher. And you could even say like the earth, like rotating the farthest point away from the sun at that particular point, feels a little bit like there's a greater distance between you and the divine. But as one develops that inner sense, distance doesn't matter. Like the light actually gets generated to an even higher degree, even with the distance. And so this is tied to one of the ways of how you process cycles in the body, and bringing light into the darkness. So we'll be talking about what the green means, what the red means, what the star means, what the consuming of the sun means. And the consuming of the sun just simply means like when certain things are tempered in the body, one starts to consume spiritual energy and integrate it in ways that the average person does not. And so, it's tied to Christmas or solstice, and the bringing or generating of light. And so there's kind of an inner alignment that can happen at Christmas time or the solstice. And there's a potential for rebirth, spiritual rebirth and alignment. And so we'll be exploring that. And tomorrow night, I'll let you know the oils that you guys can use for both the classes. I mean, it's things that you probably have for both classes, so it should be an easy thing for you guys to pull stuff together. If not, we'll have like little kids, but it's probably a lot of things that you guys already have. So it's not like there's anything big or new there. And so
Yeah, and I was gonna say those are free classes, guys.
Yeah,
So
totally free.
they're
Then so is this weekend, right? What is it? The psoas lymphatic 8, and the psoas is a free class. The psoas is kind of like the version of the neck, but for the hips and the low back. And then Sunday is anything goes. Like I'll talk therapeutic strategies, but also anything you guys want to talk about in depth. Game on.
And then just kind of back to what we were talking about earlier, someone said, please add information of developing an altar of things to possibly cover.
Okay, I think, did we record that one I did for Ostara? Maybe we'll just revisit that.
Yeah, I think we just revisit
Yeah,
it.
we'll revisit it. Yeah, we can definitely do that.
What does Uncle Bob smell like? I'll have to get it and see.
Yeah,
I think we actually have the ingredients though listed when you
Yeah.
click on Uncle Bob, so you can see that. And then
it's very like kind of an uplifting blend.
from a previous class, the Zodiac class, can you please put up the Zodiac oils in the 5 ml? Remember the big kit people had asked for, somebody
sure.
was asking for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So we'll get that. And yeah, great questions, guys. Yeah,
Okay, so we'll do a little practice.
yeah, we have
Okay,
time for practice.
let's do, how about we'll just clean things up? Why don't you grab like either hyssop, Moses. If you don't have hyssop, maybe larch or cedar. And could you? Okay, your awareness is on the front heart. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths with whichever oil you got. Hyssop, Moses, larch, or cedar. And then just let go for a moment. Just let go. Begin inhaling again. Your awareness is on your navel. And then move your awareness to the crown. The lines go. Yeah. And then just be still. And then begin inhaling again, your awareness on the heart. Move your awareness to the navel. Your awareness is on the navel. Move your awareness to the top of the head. Your awareness is on the top of your head. And then just be still. Again, begin inhaling. Your awareness is on your heart, center of your chest. And then down to your navel. And your awareness is back on the crown. Just be still. Just be still. If there is an area you wish for healing or a prayer, reflect on it as you keep your awareness on the heart. You can take some long, slow, deep breaths with your awareness on the prayer for the healing and the heart. Let the inhalation go for a moment. Just be still. You're going to hold your bottle to your chest, maybe easy on your neck. Yeah. Bottle to the chest, chin down, inhale. Hold your breath. Up, exhale. Down, inhale. 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 Up, exhale. Just be still. Your awareness is on your heart again. Take a long, slow, deep breath. Your awareness is on your navel. Awareness is on your crown. You're taking nice, long, slow, deep breath. And then pause and be still. A nice way just to flush things out of the system and do a little quick prayer or a little quick healing. So we're going to jump over to the Astara prayer petition blessing. If you want to kind of continue kind of the energy of what we're doing, please join us. And if not, remember those that did the class this weekend, we have that study group tomorrow night. And if not that, we also have the 2 free Astara little stream sessions tomorrow night as well.